Grateful you could stay on. I am Pius Kujubaka, looking at our stories. Now, Ghana has been able to save some $1.4 billion since it started exporting oil in commercial quantities, and this was contained in the Petroleum Fund's investment report. More in this following report. $1.2 billion that the country secured so far are monies gotten from investments made from crude oil earnings since Ghana started producing and exporting oil in commercial quantities from 2010. However, a careful look at Ghana's account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, USA, showed that this investment account has declined from the $1.4 billion in the first half of last year compared to the current value ending June 2025. The Ghana Stabilization Fund, which was established to manage unexpected shortfalls in petroleum revenue, has reached $194 million, while the Heritage Fund, which has been set aside for future generations that did not directly benefit from the oil find, has also reached $1.1 billion. However, some industry persons have pushed for the oil revenue laws to be changed to allow Ghana to invest in other areas in order to get more from the oil find. This is because after all these years, maybe more than $1.2 billion as savings may not be enough for Ghana. All right, so let's explore this further. Joining us via Zoom is the Executive Director for the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, Benjamin Isiah. Benjamin, thank you so much for making time to speak to us here on Business Live. Now, the amount of revenue we've recorded is some sort of improvement by way of the numbers we have it compared to the same period last year. And I want to know your thoughts about this.
Okay, I think that we need to critically look at the revenue numbers again. I'm not seeing any improvement. And I think projections were made that revenues are likely not to meet expectation because of the price of the product on the international market and also the constant or maybe declining output locally. So with respect to what we have observed, for example, if we take this year, the budget projects about $1 billion. That's $1,033 million. But if you look at half of the year, we've made only about $370 million. So we are likely not going to meet our target compared to last year when we were making in excess of $500 million in the first half of 2024. So for target, I don't think we will make it this year.
And from what you said, what do you think could account for that?
So there are exogenous variables. I think this year we projected that we are going to sell our crude around $74 per barrel. But because of certain geopolitical crisis, certain geopolitical interest, especially from the European Union and also from America, I think prices are a bit stable or maybe in a declining state on the international market. So today, as we're speaking, prices are still hovering around $69, $70 per barrel compared to our projection of $74 per barrel within our 5-year moving average. So based on price alone, we are losing. Aside price, I think production has not been good, even though last year we did a marginal about 1% increase compared to 2023. Production has also been on a declining state. So if production is low and certain exogenous variables are not helping us on the international market, I think our revenue expectation will also be low, and that is why we are not getting the revenues we need. Beyond this dollar also has to do with our revenue expectations in CD equivalent, because we projected our revenue of 16 billion in the petroleum upstream based on 15 Ghana cedis, 70 pesos to the dollar. Since the appreciation of the cedi has taken about 42%, it also means that our revenue expectation in cedi equivalent also declined in the first half of the year as well as the full year 2025.
It's worrying if you say, indeed, we are not doing well. But from where you sit again, what are the prospects for the upstream sector if we continue to rake in revenues of this nature?
It depends on our medium and long-term strategies, especially when we're able to fast-track the development of the urban Akuma that ENA has just discovered in terms of commerciality. If we're able to develop it within the short and within the medium and long term, I think that our output is going to increase. And if our output increases, it means even at a constant price of around 70, revenue is also going to increase. But we should just be worried of the global posture towards fossil fuel, especially these days. There are a lot of communications on green energy and transition energy, and that also diversify some of our energy mixes into this area. So the demand for fossil fuel, even though will last for a longer time, but I think that such arguments will also continue to curtail the price and may not see hikes in prices. So mostly we have to produce a lot, and I think in the medium and long term, we must ensure that we're able to produce a lot locally so that even if prices are a bit lower or constant, we'll make a lot of revenue out of that particular field.
All right, Benjamin, let me find this from you. Ghana's Petroleum Revenue Management Act 893, as amended, provides the framework for the collection, allocation, and of course, management of petroleum revenue in transparent manner. How well have we utilized this provision to rake in the needed revenue?
I think that is one of the laws that has failed us as a country. This disintegration of various revenues into various areas is the reason why we've not had optimal value from this particular sector. I've always maintained that if you look at 70% of that amount that goes into ABFA, as of now, based on most of the peer reports I've read, we cannot boastfully say that we've earned something from this 70% that has been directed through the FBFA. If you had even consolidated that in one account and used even to construct a triple lane from Accra to Kumasi, or maybe a triple lane from Accra to Tamale, I think that would have been a national edifice than how we disintegrated these funds into areas that have not yielded any benefit. And there are reports indicating that some of these funds were wasted, were misused, and none has been held responsible, accountable for these huge wastage. So I think the 815, 893 have not done as good. I think we need to critically look at the act again and consolidate the revenues into a bulk revenue and then use it for certain specific projects that will bring us long-term benefits. For example, when we consolidated some funds and used that to construct the Atuabo gas processing plant, at least today it is serving the power sector. Imagine we had constructed phase 2 of it, it will also be supporting the power sector. So I think that we need to critically look at the act again and then consolidate these funds into creating generational wealth, because there's also time value of money. People may think that stabilization or heritage fund will help the young ones in future or the generation unborn. But if you look at the story of the theory behind time value of money, it may get to that time and that the value of that money at that time may not be that useful to any infrastructure or the development these young guys or the future generation may want to use it for.
All right. Thank you so much, Benjamin Insia. I'm truly grateful for speaking to us here on Business Live. Now, let's shift focus from the oil industry to some pressing story we are learning. The minority in Parliament is warning of some huge spike in the cost of living in the coming weeks. Now, this, they say, is due to the introduction of new fees and charges expected to go up by some 40%. According to them, despite government touting the cedi's appreciation against the dollar and other major trading currencies, the gains exist only on paper. Gideon Baku is the Member of Parliament for Tano North and has been addressing a news conference in Parliament.
The minister claimed that there has been a reverse of the cedi depreciation to the 2022 level. And here he mentions the fact that they inherited a cedi to dollar rate of 17 cedis to $1, and they have brought it down to 10.4 cedis to the dollar. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a plain lie. There has never been any record by the Bank of Ghana during the last 8 years of the previous MPP government whereby $1 was sold at the interbank market for 17 cedis. It never happened. You can pull the historical data at Bank of Ghana and you will never see this happening anywhere. In any case, if you look at the data put out by the finance minister, he computes or talks about the rate of appreciation in paragraph 43 VII, and he states, and I quote, as at the end of June 2025, the cedi appreciated by 42.6% against the dollar, unquote. This is the rate of appreciation the minister talks about. I want you all to do a simple mathematics. From 17 to 10.4, you do the exchange rate computation, 10.4 minus 17 divided by 10.4. If indeed they met the cedi to dollar rate in January 2025 at 17, the appreciation would have been around 65%.
Adam, on his part, accused government of not being truthful about reasons behind reduction in debt stock and crediting ratings reductions.
Year review. The government praised itself for a number of unearned achievements. The minister stated, for example, that Ghana's public debt to GDP ratio as at the end of June 2025 was 43.8%. He compared that with the 61.8% at the end of December 2024, and thereby stating that the public debt as a percentage of GDP reduced by 18% in just 6 months. The minister said that. He also said that Ghana's foreign debt as a percentage of total public debt declined from 57.4% at the end of 2024 to 49% in 6 months. That this has significantly improved Ghana's debt sustainability, and that our debt to GDP ratio is at a 5-year low. The question we ask the minister is, how much of Ghana's public debt has the government repaid since they assumed office? How much? Zero. They haven't repaid any of Ghana's debt. And so, if the debt to GDP ratio has reduced, how is the minister able to claim that they have done magic? Yet they have not repaid any of Ghana's debts. It is no secret to any of you in the media the painstaking efforts the MPP government made to restructure our debt, particularly with our external commercial creditors. That led to outright debt cancellation of $5 billion and a debt service savings of $4.7 billion. So when we talk about reduction in the debt stock, which then will reduce our debt to GDP ratio, this is what we are talking about. But apart from this, what else has the new government done in terms of reducing our debt stock?
Ghana's growth rate is expected to rise to 6.2% in 2025 from its initial view of 3.8%, and that's according to Standard Bank Economy 2025 report. And this is far higher than the 4% growth rate that the government projected in the 2025 budget. Here's more.
The report said despite a poor performance from the cocoa subsector, the mining sector outperformed in 2024. It projected that the trend may continue in 2025 following the commissioning of the Cardinal Namdini mine in the fourth quarter of 2024, as the new Halford North mine is also expected to commence production in mid-2025. The report said government expects the two mines to cumulatively contribute around 600,000 ounces of gold production. This development may also result in higher GDP growth in 2025 than the current core scenario.
You're still watching Business Live. We have more for you after this break. Welcome back to Business Live. The Bank of Ghana says it is tightening its grip on environmentally sustainable governance in the banking sector to ensure unregulated financial institutions embed climate risk into the operations. Speaking at the Ghana Sustainable Banking Principles Construction Sector event, Second Deputy Governor Matilda Santiesiedu says compliance is already rising sharply, moving from about 42% in 2021 to more than 73% as of March this year. More in this report.
Speaking at the Ghana Sustainable Banking Principles Deep Dive session focused on the construction sector, Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana noted that this growing compliance reflects a meaningful shift toward environmentally responsible banking in Ghana, particularly in high-impact sectors such as construction. She emphasized the need for all financial institutions to align with these principles to ensure long-term resilience and support the country's broader climate goals.
We have worked together to embed these principles in banking governance, strategy, risk management, and operations. Between 2021 and 2023, the Bank of Ghana facilitated the training of all 23 commercial banks on the 7 sustainable banking principles. We have since been receiving biannual reports from the banks to assess the bank's compliance. And I'm pleased to announce that the average compliance rate has been on an upward trajectory from 42.2 to 73.6 as of March 2025. I believe you deserve a round of applause for this. I really commend you for the great efforts in this regard and the resultant enhancements in the supervisory oversight and transparency.
Chief Executive for the Ghana Association of Banks, John Iwa, called on developing partners to support local banks in their quest to ensure ESG.
We must ensure that the financial products backing these transitions are fit for purpose. We must find ways to de-risk ESG-related projects, reduce cost of capital, and crowd in private investment. It is why today I make a passionate call to our esteemed development partners, the IFC, GIZ, AFDB, the World Bank, and other ESG-focused institutions to support Ghana and Ghanaian banks through the following concrete mechanisms.
The event was under the theme Sustainability, Environmental, Social and Governance, Climate Risk.
And to some other stories, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry has signed a strategic memorandum of understanding with the Chartered Institute of Restructuring and Insolvency Practitioners Ghana to help Ghanaian businesses navigate financial distress, build stronger governance structures, and recover more sustainably from economic shocks. More in this report.
Through this partnership, the two institutions aim to shift the narrative around insolvency in Ghana. The MOU will guide joint initiatives in training, research, advocacy, and public education over the coming years. It will also open the door for deeper engagement between professionals, regulators, and the wider business community to reimagine how Ghana supports struggling enterprises. Speaking to Joy Business after the signing ceremony, President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Stefan Mason Abbas, said the collaboration will help detect signs of business distress early and support enterprises in building resilience to bounce back.
The Chamber has signed an agreement with the Chartered Institute of Restructuring and Insolvency Practitioners, basically to ensure that companies which are in distress and which belongs to not just the chamber but Ghanaian companies, when they go through tough times, instead of collapsing, we can bring professionals on board to resuscitate them, for want of a better word. We know the role of the private sector to the economy of Ghana. So as a chamber, we cannot sit aloof and look at companies going through stress and struggles and collapsing eventually. That is why today, as a chamber, we've come together with CIRIP, which is the Chartered Institute of Restructuring and Insolvency, to see how we can collaborate to bring their services through the chamber to the business community.
On his part, President of the Chartered Institute of Restructuring and Insolvency Practitioners Ghana, Felix Addo, said the partnership will help businesses recover more sustainably from economic shocks.
Especially happy that we have today signed this MOU, because that opens the opportunities for us to get together with all the clients or the companies registered under the National Chamber. Okay, the chamber has coverage all over the nation. It's been the mother parent organization for all companies, all types of services. And so we are excited because we will get the message across to all your members that when you are distressed, there is hope. There is another option, and you need to get in touch either through the chamber or directly to CIRIP, and we'll do whatever we can to help you turn yourself around.
Rather than seeing insolvency as an end, this partnership promotes it as a structured pathway to renewal, especially when businesses are supported with right knowledge, policy frameworks, and professional guidance.
Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, Sheriff Gali, says the chamber is deepening cross-sector partnerships to support young women in businesses through its national business agenda. He made the remarks at the Young Women Business Summit. More in this report for you.
Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs says its flagship national business agenda serves as a strategic roadmap to boost women and youth participation in business. According to Chief Executive Sheriff Gali, the initiative promotes collaboration among government, the private sector, development partners, and financial institutions, ensuring collective responsibility in supporting young entrepreneurs, particularly women.
The national business agenda for women and youth doing business is more or less an action plan or a work plan that would show what government government needs to do, what the private sector needs to do, what the development partners need to do, even what the financial institutions need to do. So together we bring ourselves and learn from each other and hold each other accountable. And this is one of the best ways I think that we can work together. A platform for accountability, a platform for tracking progress, a platform for tracking programs. And that has been what we've been doing. And so you would see that there's a role for the presidency to play, there's a role for ministers to play, there's a role for agencies to play. And this is how we are doing to bring these agencies together to work in supporting these young women entrepreneurs.
The newly appointed patron of the chamber, Joyce Bao Mukhtari, at the summit outlined government vision for women-led development.
It only takes an empowered woman to actually empower yet another. And so I believe that this begins a certain value chain. It creates a certain understanding. It creates a certain opportunity. You know, for our part as government, I believe that President Mahama has put in place every good policy to enable the young Ghanaian woman or man thrive in entrepreneurship. It is why I spoke about the Big Push agenda. I spoke about the National Enterprise Project. I spoke about the Codes for Women project. I spoke about the STEM project. I spoke about also the conditions of a digital economy and why President Mahama believes that this is something that we must all take very, very seriously. I also spoke about the Women's Development Bank, which will be led by Her Excellency, the Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman.
At the Young Women Business Summit, participants from diverse sectors called for sustained support and visibility for women in business. From food entrepreneurs to NGO leaders, many praise the initiative as a powerful platform to boost female inclusion in traditionally male-dominated industries.
It has been a very insightful program so far. The first session quite insightful, interactive, and very educative. And I do appreciate each and every knowledge that was brought here today. This program is a good initiative because it's more or less like trying to equip young women in also developing their own skills, starting up a business, which is a good thing.
In this male-dominated industry, if there's no special platform for women, it makes it very difficult for us to get out there. The hope is that it wouldn't be a one-time something. It would still keep on going and special emphasis be placed on women, especially the focus where they mentioned the vice presidential pitch, which will focus on women purely. I believe it's a good one. So we are looking for more of that initiatives.
With strong backing from both policymakers and the private sector, the Young Women Business Summit is shaping up to be more than just a one-day event.
We've got more business stories for you when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Thanks so much for your company.